The morning after my wife's funeral, I woke up and reached across the bed. My hand fell on cold, empty sheets. After 50 years of marriage, 50 years of sharing a home, a bed, a life with someone, I was alone. I didn't just feel alone. I was alone. That was 3 years ago. I'm Harold, and at 78, I never expected to be making YouTube videos. But here I am, talking to you from my condo where I've learned not just to survive on my own, but to thrive. The journey from that empty bed to where I am today wasn't easy or straightforward. But it's a journey many of us baby boomers will face. And one I want to help you navigate. I spent the first month after Margaret passed in a fog. We'd been married since I was 25. I literally didn't know how to be an adult without her. Our routines, our home, even our friendships were built together. I'd wake up and make 2 cups of coffee out of habit, then stand there staring at the extra mug, feeling lost. What I've learned since then is that acknowledging this reality is the first crucial step. Our generation wasn't raised to talk about feelings or vulnerability. We were the ones who pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps, right? But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing weak about admitting. You're struggling. For the first time in my life, I started journaling. Nothing fancy, just writing down how I felt each morning. Sometimes it was just, I miss her laugh, or the house is too quiet. Other entries were pages long. But putting those feelings on paper helped me see that what I was experiencing was normal, expected, and most importantly, something I could work through. If journaling isn't your thing, find someone to talk to. It might be a friend, a family member, a therapist, or even a support group. The point is to acknowledge your new reality, rather than trying to ignore it or rush through the adjustment. One of the hardest parts of living alone, after so many decades of sharing space, was figuring out what to do with our home. Every corner held memories. Her reading chair by the window. The kitchen, where she'd taught our grandkids to bake. The garden she'd tended for 30 years. After 6 months of rattling around in our 4-bedroom house, a house that had once felt too small when we had teenagers, I made the decision to downsize. Not just because it made financial sense, but because I needed a fresh start. This wasn't an easy decision. Our children were upset initially. "Dad, this is our family home," they said. But I gently reminded them that their memories would travel with them, just as mine would with me. Downsizing was overwhelming at first. 50 years of accumulated stuff. How do you even begin to sort through it? I started with a system: keep, donate, gift to family, or discard. Each item I touched forced me to make a conscious decision about my new life. The process turned out to be unexpectedly therapeutic. I kept Margaret's favorite paintings and books, but I donated her clothes to a women's shelter. I gave our dining room table, the scene of countless family dinners, to our daughter. And I bought myself a sleek, modern coffee table that Margaret would have hated, but that I'd always secretly wanted. My new condo is half the size of our old house, but it's mine. I've arranged it exactly how I want it. I painted the living room blue, something Margaret never would have allowed. I have a small balcony garden with herbs instead of the flowers she loved. Creating a space that reflects who I am now, not just who we were together, has been liberating. The silence was deafening at first. After decades of coordinating schedules, compromising on TV shows, and planning meals together, I had complete freedom. And I had no idea what to do with it. I realized I needed structure, not just to fill time, but to give my days purpose. So I started creating new routines, ones that were entirely mine. Every morning now, I wake up at 7:00, make my coffee, and take it out to my balcony. I spend 20 minutes watching the neighborhood come alive before checking the news on my iPad. This quiet time centers me for the day ahead. Meal times were particularly challenging. Margaret had always been the cook in our relationship, and my culinary skills were limited to grilling steaks and making scrambled eggs. I could have survived on frozen dinners, but instead, I challenged myself to learn to cook. I started with a cooking class at the community center, Basics for Beginners. I was the only man and by far the oldest person there, but the instructor, a patient young woman named Aisha, never made me feel out of place. Now I have a rotation of simple but healthy meals I can prepare, and cooking has become a hobby rather than a chore. Exercise is another cornerstone of my new routine. Margaret and I used to take evening walks together, but I found those too painful to continue alone. Instead, I joined a senior swim class that meets 3 mornings a week. The physical activity helps with my arthritis, and the social connection has been invaluable. The key is finding routines that work for you. Don't try to replicate your old life. Create a new one that honors who you are now and what you need. Let's talk about some practical challenges of solo living that nobody really prepares you for. First, there's the administrative burden. Margaret handled our insurance, medical appointments, and household bills. I handled the investments, taxes, and home repairs. Suddenly, I had to learn all her domains while continuing to manage mine. I created a system, a big binder with dividers for each category: medical, home, finances, etc. Everything goes in the binder, and I review it weekly. It sounds simple, but having all important information in one place has saved me countless headaches. Technology became both my biggest challenge and my greatest ally. Margaret was the tech-savvy one in our relationship. When she died, I didn't even know the passwords to our shared email account or how to pay bills online. I swallowed my pride and asked my 14-year-old grandson to teach me. We had weekly tech lessons where he showed me how to use online banking, order groceries for delivery, and even how to use social media to keep up with family. Now I'm proud to say I manage all my affairs online, and I even set up this YouTube channel myself. Home maintenance was another hurdle. Yes, I'd always handled the big repairs, but Margaret took care of 1,000 small things I never noticed. Changing light bulbs, noticing when the refrigerator started making a funny noise, keeping track of when to service the HVAC system. I created a home maintenance calendar with monthly reminders for routine tasks. And I've developed relationships with reliable service providers, a handyman, a plumber, and an electrician who don't mind explaining things to me and don't try to take advantage of an older person living alone. The most important practical lesson I've learned is to ask for help when you need it, but to push yourself to learn new skills too. Each new capability builds confidence. After Margaret died, our social life collapsed. Most of our friends were couples we'd known for decades. They tried to include me at first, but it was awkward. I felt like a third wheel, and they clearly didn't know how to interact with me without Margaret. I realized I needed to rebuild my social network from scratch. This was terrifying for someone who hadn't made a new friend since the 1980s. I started by reconnecting with old interests. I'd always loved photography, but had set it aside when our kids were young. I joined a photography club that meets weekly at the local arts center. The first meeting, I sat alone and barely spoke. By the third meeting, I was chatting with several people. Now, 2 years later, Some of those club members have become close friends. I also decided to volunteer. Margaret and I had always talked about volunteering after retirement, but her health declined too quickly. I now spend Tuesday afternoons at the local elementary school, helping kids learn to read. These few hours each week give me purpose and connection. Family relationships changed too. My children started calling more often, clearly worried about me. While I appreciated their concern, I didn't want to be a burden. I had to learn to be honest about when I needed help and when I was genuinely fine on my own. Our relationships have actually deepened now that we communicate more directly. Dating was something I never expected to think about again. At 78, was I really going to put myself out there? After 2 years on my own, I decided to try. Not to replace Margaret, no one could ever do that, but to find companionship. My daughter helped me set up a profile on a dating site for seniors. I've had coffee with several lovely women. Some meetings were awkward, some pleasant but without spark. And then I met Elaine, a widow with a sharp wit who makes me laugh. We've been seeing each other for 6 months now, taking things slow, building a relationship that honors our past loves while creating something new. Rebuilding a social life takes time and courage. You'll face rejection. You'll have awkward moments. But human connection is worth the effort. The question that kept me up at night during that first year wasn't, how will I manage the house? Or will I be lonely? It was deeper. What's the point now? For 50 years, my purpose had been intertwined with Margaret and our family. We built a life together, raised children, supported each other's dreams. With her gone and our children grown with families of their own, what was my reason for getting out of bed each morning? Finding new purpose didn't happen overnight. It started with small steps, joining that photography club, volunteering at the school. But I still felt something was missing. The turning point came unexpectedly. A neighbor's husband died suddenly, and she knocked on my door one evening, clearly distraught. "Harold," she said, "I don't know how to do this." "How did you learn to live alone?" That conversation lasted hours. I shared everything I'd learned, the mistakes I'd made, the small victories I'd celebrated. A week later, she called to thank me, saying our talk had given her hope. That's when it clicked. Maybe my purpose in this chapter of life was to help others navigate the same difficult transition I'd been through. I started a small support group, my community center for seniors living alone. Just 5 of us at first, meeting over coffee to share challenges and solutions. Word spread. The group grew. Someone suggested I share my experiences more broadly, and the idea for this YouTube channel was born. My grandson helped me set it up, taught me to use the camera, and here we are. Now I wake up each morning knowing that my experiences, even the painful ones, might help someone else find their way. That's a powerful reason to keep going. Purpose looks different for everyone. For some, it's creative expression. For others, it's leaving a legacy for grandchildren or contributing to a cause you believe in. The key is to look forward, not back. Ask yourself what matters to you now, not what mattered in your previous life chapter. If there's one thing I've learned in the past 3 years, it's that change doesn't stop. Just when I thought I'd figured out my new normal, something would shift again. My health has changed. I developed arthritis in my hands, making photography more challenging. Rather than giving up, I adapted, using different equipment, taking more breaks, accepting that I work more slowly now. My family has changed. My oldest grandson left for college. My daughter got promoted, and moved to another state. My son remarried. Each change rippled through my life, requiring adjustments to routines and expectations. The world around us keeps changing too. Technology evolves at a dizzying pace. Social norms shift. The neighborhood changes as younger families move in and older neighbors move out or pass away. As baby boomers, we've already lived through tremendous social change. We saw the civil rights movement, women's liberation, the digital revolution. We know how to adapt. But sometimes, we forget to apply that resilience to our personal lives. I've developed what I call my change muscle, the ability to flex and bend without breaking when life throws new challenges my way. I exercise this muscle by intentionally trying new things regularly. Last month, I took a Thai cooking class. Next month, I'm signed up for an introduction to digital art. These small challenges keep me adaptable for the bigger changes I can't control. The most important lesson I've learned about change is to approach it with curiosity rather than fear. When something new comes along, I ask myself, what might I discover through this change? How might this make my life richer or more interesting? This mindset doesn't make change painless, but it does make it meaningful. And at this stage of life, finding meaning is everything. There's a profound difference between being alone and being independent. In those early days after Margaret died, I was definitely alone, isolated, adrift, unsure. But gradually, I've discovered the joy of independence. Independence means making decisions without compromise. I can eat dinner at 9 p.m. if I want to. I can watch documentaries instead of the crime shows Margaret loved. I can spend a whole day taking photographs without worrying about anyone else's schedule. Independence means discovering parts of myself that were dormant during my marriage. Not because Margaret suppressed them, but because in any partnership, we naturally adapt to each other. Now I've discovered I love spicy food, something we rarely ate because Margaret couldn't tolerate it. I've found I enjoy meditation, which would have seemed too new age for us to try together. Independence also means taking full responsibility for my life and choices. There's no one else to blame when things go wrong, but there's also no one limiting what I can try or achieve. This independence didn't come naturally to me. Our generation, especially men of my generation, were taught to value self-sufficiency, yet many of us simultaneously became dependent on our spouses for emotional support, daily routines, and social connections. Learning true independence has been liberating. I now know I can handle whatever comes my way, not because I'm never afraid or sad or overwhelmed, but because I've proven to myself that I can move through those feelings and emerge stronger. There are still moments when I miss the partnership, the shared decision-making, the comfort of knowing someone else is there to catch me if I fall. But I've come to treasure this hard-won independence as a gift of this life stage. And here's what I've discovered that surprised me most. True independence actually makes it easier to connect deeply with others. When you know you can stand on your own, relationships become choices rather than necessities. That's a powerful foundation for authentic connection. As I look back on these 3 years of living alone after 50 years of marriage, I'm amazed at how far I've come. From that morning when I reached across to empty sheets, barely able to imagine a future, to today, content, engaged, and yes, sometimes still sad, but fundamentally okay. The journey hasn't been linear. There have been setbacks, holidays that knocked me flat with grief, health scares that seemed more terrifying without a partner, nights when loneliness felt like a physical weight on my chest. But there have also been unexpected joys, the freedom to reinvent myself, The deep satisfaction of mastering new skills, the sweet pleasure of making someone laugh on a first date at age 78, the connection I feel with all of you who watch these videos and share your own stories. If you're just beginning this journey of solo living after decades of partnership, please know this: it gets better. Not perfect, not always easy, but better. You are more resilient than you know. Start small. Be patient with yourself. Reach out when you need help. Push yourself to try new things, even when it's uncomfortable. Remember that adapting to change is something our generation has always done well. And remember, you're not alone in this experience. Millions of us baby boomers are navigating this same transition. We can learn from each other, support each other, remind each other that there's still life to be lived, joy to be found, purpose to be discovered. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. Each week, I share specific strategies for thriving in this chapter of life. Everything from practical tips on managing finances or home maintenance to deeper reflections on finding meaning and connection. Leave a comment sharing your own experience or a question you'd like me to address in a future video. This community we're building together is proof that even as we age independently, we don't have to do it in isolation. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next week, this is Harold, reminding you that it's never too late to write a new chapter. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.